Mr. Justice, welcome here. We thank you for coming today and for sharing your story with us. Can you start by telling us your name and what branch of service you served in the military?
My name is Robert E., nicknamed Bob Justice, Justice. I volunteered at the age of 17 in West Virginia in the United States Navy, and due to my farm upbringing in the mountains and running machinery, they put me to Seabees, and I eventually operated a large diesel 7 bulldozer made in Peoria, Illinois, Caterpillar.
All right. So why did you go into the service? What caused that?
Why did I enlist? Well, this was a scary time. Scary. I mean it. Before the war was declared, there were German fifth columnists up and down the East Coast ready to bomb our oil refineries and substations. On the West Coast, they were signaling to the shore, and Aleutian Islands are floating bombs over, some hitting Idaho and so forth. Thank goodness they hit in cornfields and potato fields. But all of that was going on, and when I came home from church and Sunday school, I went to school in West Virginia, my dad had a radio, the only one in the valley, or the holla as they call it up there. He turned it on, we heard Mr. Roosevelt.
So this was
December
December
7th, 1941. That's when he told about infamy, the opposite of being famous, and a chill went over all of us. And from that time on, my life wasn't the same for the next 6 years as everyone else. But Tom Brokaw hit it on the nail. He said the smoke had not cleared from Pearl Harbor until masses, farmers, teachers, lawyers, blacksmiths, machinists, rushed to join the fight for our country. So, the ladies also, I remember my mom and her sewing club, they made bandages for first aid for the Red Cross. The sisters went into war factories. There was a picture I saw somewhere in one of our, it may be over our Post 28, of Rosie the Riveter, coveralls, red, white, and blue necks, working on riveting battleships. Later, the ladies, females, would fly planes to Hawaii, to England. Everybody pitched in.
really a national effort. World War II was
Yes,
a really national
there
effort.
wasn't any. Here's why. 2 days after Pearl Harbor, Hitler declared war on us. Right on the heels of that, his buddy Mussolini in Italy did the same thing. Japan, Germany, and Italy did not think that America could fight not only on 2 fronts, but really on 3. I had buddies at Anzio going up to the boot in Italy, over to Rommel in Africa, buddies at Normandy. Then
The whole world. That's why they called it a world war.
on the islands, came right up from the Bataan Death March. We all had a resolve to win, and when we did, in 5 years, we whipped the world, the enemy world.
Could we do it again today, you think?
What?
Could we whip an enemy like that again today, do you think?
Yes, I firmly feel that if something similar would occur, we would do it again, because deep down, inherent in all of us, is the desire to remain free, not to be under any dictator.
Very
I firmly
well
believe
said.
that.
Very well said. Let's go back a minute to going into the Navy. What made that your decision? Did you have a friend that went in the Navy with you or before you, or was your father a Navy veteran? Or
I already had a brother in the Navy. He was a hospital corpsman. Had two brother-in-laws in the Army. Back then, in every window, there were stars. There were already 3 stars in my parents' window. However,
stars meant what? What did the stars mean?
Stars represented a star for the Army, a star for the Navy, and then a star for 3 navies was my mom's window and 1 Army. They were patriotic flags at the inside every, like, kitchen window. They flew those flags. Well, why did I go to the Navy? Why did I enlist? It was because I had read where the Navy, like the Air Force, would send you to school and you could learn different trades and develop skills. And I chose, for that reason, the Navy to further my education.
That's a very important point, because a lot of times I think Americans don't realize how much the military may train you for certain specialties. There's a lot of training, a lot of schools in the military. Including back then, I'm sure you went through a lot of schools.
When I was put into the heavy equipment, operating a bulldozer, which was similar to the farm tractor Dad had, although it was not as big, they also had classes like on weekends. So in my case, instead of going out on Liberty every weekend, I took like a welding class. I took stevedore, how to load and unload crafts. I also took carpenter. All of those in my free time because it went on your record. And if you did a few things and passed a few tests, you go from apprentice seaman, which was $20 and your room and board and your clothes, to second class seaman, which brought you up close to 40, and then first class, wow, $60. If you went overseas, it was $90. Dangerous area, which we did. And then, after I was on the island and so forth, I passed my petty officer 3rd.
Which island was that you're talking about now?
Harbor. We stayed there a while and took on more men on our battalion. Men? And then, and that was, the scars were terrible. I had buddies that had been killed there, and some of the ships. West Virginia was sunk, you know. Mm-hmm. So it was so sad and such a strange feeling. From there I went to the Marshall Islands, and from there to Okinawa. That was my last island.
What did you do on Okinawa? What was your job?
Well, I had, again, a big bulldozer, diesel 7 with a huge blade. We made airstrips, roads, docks, landings, whatever they wanted.
Okay.
I was 17, 18. Well, I got there when I was 18. I had my 19th birthday there and my 20th birthday. So I met a fellow over at our Legion meeting Saturday, who was talking about it. And I asked him, he said he flew in there later. I said, which airstrip did you land on? He said, Yontan. I said, I helped build that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you're here today in your uniform, your CB uniform, and you look really good in it, and you told me that was your original uniform.
Yes, sir.
From 1944, I guess.
Early 43. I have a picture of the same uniform.
Right. We're going to be using that picture, so that's very good. So you can fit in your uniform today. I bet you could probably still drive that bulldozer today. You think?
Oh, yes. I was scout executive in Huntington, West Virginia. We were building a lake, and they sent in a bulldozer and couldn't get anyone to volunteer. And I asked my superior, I said, "You want me to do it?" He said, "You?" I said, "Yeah." So I made a lake. Then
Okay.
I went to Logan, West Virginia, which served part of Kentucky. Same thing. We had a 500-acre camp, but no lake. And so the coal miners sent in 2 bulldozers full of fuel. What they wanted to do. So I made another lake.
Okay.
And I went back a few years ago to West Virginia for a family reunion. I went by that camp. It's still 500, beautiful, and that 5-acre lake is still the home of the boating and
And
canoeing.
you were part of making that lake.
Yes.
Let me ask you about thinking of examples like that. Let's think about people as examples. A role model example. A lot of us that go in the military, we find somebody along the way that we really admire and we could kind of consider them a role model, maybe a good leader. Do you remember anybody like that during your service?
Oh, yes. I can remember I started school in 1932. That was a year before the Great Depression, and it was a great one. Everything stopped. However, every November the 11th, there would be some of the military men that I knew in my community who would come to school and talk. They would go to every
World War II, World War I
World
veterans,
War I.
these
They
were.
they were called doughboys,
Mhm.
and that was their nickname. And they would come to every school in every county in the state and talk about the 11th month, the 11th day, and the 11th hour,
Mhm.
and how inspirational it was. However, some of the men I admired so much had a deep sorrow. They couldn't hardly breathe. The Germans illegally used poison gas in their lungs. They would breathe, but the oxygen, all the filaments in their lungs had been destroyed, and they breathed heavily, just like if you were to go out here and run 100 yards, how you would breathe. That's the way they did.
Mhm.
And it was so sad when I went to one of my uncle's funerals when I first heard taps. There were bugler boys there, one on one side of the mountain, one on the other, and they played "Day is Done, Gone the Sun," from the lake, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. I'll never forget that. It was the first time. Then later
Nice.
the Boy Scouts and all, every time I'd hear that, I'd think of my first bugle.
I see. Yeah. Okay, you're on Okinawa now. Let's think about that for a moment. Tell us something about your experience on that island, your experience in uniform that maybe the average American wouldn't think about.
Well, being shot at,
Okay, sure.
then you realize that someone needs to shoot back. On
Yes.
our bulldozers, we were required to wear our helmet, carry our carbine, 30 caliber right there, and work. And many times it would be under the lights at night, and you'd see a comrade slump on his bulldozer. You'd hear, the saying was, when they went, you heard them, that was okay. But there's for the Marines. There was a Marine gentleman I met here a while ago who was on Iwo Jima. Bless their hearts. They did things that others could not do. When the snipers, well, I'll tell you how many there were. When I left there in January '45, there were still 10,000 enemy in those caves sniping. It was unsafe anytime. But anyway, we went about our duties, and the thing of it was, we were scared in a way, in another way we weren't. The way we'd been trained, I read a letter from my mother, sometimes it'd come through dirty and wet and so forth, mail call. She said, "Son, I'm praying for you," and all of our, our service people. And I'd think, well, that's fine, but what's she afraid of? What, you're trained that you're not afraid of anything. And if I say go, you go. You don't say, well, you go first. If you do that, you're not worth anything. You're a coward.
You think that coward part, you think that teamwork and that camaraderie of the unit has something to do with this courage and willingness to do the mission?
Yes, seeing what your buddies were doing, and and then meanwhile, the 10th Army, everybody on Okinawa was under the 10th Army. Now sometimes some of our comrades, like the Marines, all didn't exactly like that, but that was just sort of kidding each other. We were all together, and one thing about it, whenever it would get more sniping, so the Marines somehow got up to those caves with the flamethrowers, and the tune changed. It was war. It was war. Just like they asked Harry Truman one time, after he had gone back to independence, some ladies were interviewing him and said, Mr. Truman, don't you have difficulty sleeping at night knowing about all those women and babies you killed with those 2 bombs? He said, let me tell you something. We had lost heavily in Africa, Europe, Normandy, Bataan, all the islands. On Okinawa was our last young blood of our country. And when you invade a homeland, everybody is going to protect it. He said, had dropped for 6 weeks before I unleashed those bombs. Tell the people, your leaders are not telling you the truth. Tell them to quit or something bad is going to happen.